Alrighty.
Okay.
응답하라
Yeochin.
여친. Go to the into the she.
Back to the kyung to the Jew. Hey. Jane.
Yes.
Usually I am the one that is telling you all about what is going on TikTok, the gossip, the hot trending, topic of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But you got something for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, granted, this is something that I noticed. It could already be like a month old. I don't know how late I am to these trends that I see on TikTok these days.
Tell me. I'm all ears.
I've been noticing a trend on TikTok where it's girls, like young girls, Gen Z, like, mid 20s to maybe like early 30s, talking about like their plan A's and plan B's. So I don't know if, maybe our listeners. Okay, so it's like a girl, like, it's usually like a still image or maybe like a video of the girl, and it says like plan A. Married at 25, kids at 27, house at 29.
Wow.
And then like there's that music change. And then it goes plan B.
Oh, what's plan B that you've
Rich
seen?
auntie. Or rich auntie and uncle.
Give up the marriage.
Yeah.
Forget that man.
And then so it switches to like the reality they're living, which is the implication is that it's, way better than the plan A that they had imagined for themselves.
So it's like, in a way, okay, so plan B is like the reality.
Plan B is the reality, and
it's actually
like it's
turned
actually
out
better. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So they're kind of like flipping the script.
I like that.
Yeah. And so I've seen other ones where it was like plan A, stay in my hometown, be safe, and like do like the expected thing, and then plan B, go out of my comfort zone. And it's like shots of like them doing all these glamorous things, like
is that usually
influencer
plan B
events,
or plan A?
Plan B. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they're flipping the script on the idea of plan B.
Yes. The idea that
Oh.
plan B is, much better than what you had
originally
planned, or what society expects of you.
Or things didn't go according to plan, and I'm here doing it better than what I imagined.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Being like a 40-year-old woman now, it got me thinking, like, what was my plan A, and how is like my reality now better than what I had imagined?
Yeah, what was your plan A?
I think my plan A was to
wait. Let's reel it back.
Okay.
What was your childhood dream?
When
you thought, when one day I'm gonna be a grown up.
Yeah.
What did you think that you were gonna do?
Honestly, I don't know that I knew that until I was much older.
Or did you ever imagine it?
I did imagine it, yeah. But I thought that I was going to. It's shifted, right? At one point, I thought I was going to be an ambassador in
when you were a kid.
France. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
At one point, I thought I was going to be like a French high school teacher.
Okay.
And then at another point, I thought, this is when I was younger, I thought, I would like to be like a children's book author, illustrator.
How old do you think you were when you thought that?
That was when I was younger, like elementary school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you like drawing.
I like drawing and I liked writing, and I was like, this is like the perfect thing for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So my elementary school, so I loved manhwa.
Oh yes, Korean manga.
Yeah, do we call it manga?
Well,
I never understood.
Yeah,
is it comic books or
comic
manhwa?
books? Comic
we
books.
call it our own. So yeah, but it's like very Japanese, like very similar. I would, but in Korea, that's all I read.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I came here, I would get the Tengi, Runenangsu, like it had like monthly. It was like a giant Bible-sized one, and then it had like 5 different stories.
Yes.
And each month you get the continuation. But my parents would stop buying it for me, and so, anyways, that's fine. But my elementary school, like I had a very vivid thing that I was gonna live in a rooftop house in Korea.
Oh yeah,
and draw manhwa and eat ramyeon.
The life.
You
could be doing that in
that was my fantasy
in Sadong right now.
But it's like a poor life, though.
That's as a kid you have no.
You have no sense of money.
Right?
You're just thinking like, what would bring me joy? Those are my favorite things. Manhwa, ramyeon. rooftop house in
I
Korea.
also wanted to be like an artist at one point, right? And my mom was like, "Oh, you make no money doing that."
Yeah, the adults have a way of shutting down your creativity. Like, let me nip that shit in the bud right now.
They're like, how about a doctor? Lawyer? No. Lawyer's like that's undignified. You just lie for a living. That's like no integrity. But doctor.
I felt bad the other day when my kid was like telling me he was doing really well in language arts, right? And I was like, the test or whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, but your math tests have been suffering. I was like, oh, I know. I was like, well, if you want to be a scientist, like you say, or a developer, like you say, or architect, like you say, you have to be good at math. And then he's like, I know, Mom, I know. And then I was like, oh my God, ew, am I that parent?
Yeah.
I'm like, am I doing that thing? Reality check.
Yeah.
Ew, I hated that about
me. And then you glitched in real time and then went back to your normal self.
I felt so I hate it.
I know. And isn't that so weird because when I'm saying these things, I can see myself like out of body.
I know.
And cringe because I'm like,
it's the word
ew,
cringe.
Jane, ew. And I had this conversation when Bennett was signing up for middle school electives.
Oh, right? God, that's so annoying, right? Having to
it took me immediately back to the dining table in my house with my parents. Oof. When they were telling me, and I said, I want to do visual arts. They're like, nope, that is not why you learned clarinet for the last 2 years. You're going to be doing band.
Wow.
I was like, I don't want to do band. I don't want to do it. And I was like, I want to do visual arts. They're like, nope.
That's me right now,
so then I did the band, right? And my school was 7th grade to 12th grade. So it was like, junior high school and then high school, like all together.
Wow. Okay.
So I did band for 4 years. And then I kind of maxed that out. I was like, I want to do something else, like something that I really want to do for the next 2 years, my junior and senior year. At that point,
play clarinet the whole time?
The whole time, yeah. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'll do visual arts because I think I had another elective slot.
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
Why do people put kids in clarinet? I've never seen a kid that leaves high school
play
clarinet.
I think because, well, for Koreans.
Yeah.
I think because it's portable. It's just easy.
No, that's true. Because when my son wanted to do cello, I was like, yeah, let's just stick to viola. I mean, because
but
lugging.
You don't really have to lug it because if you do cello, because this is what I learned from enrolling Bennett. He's doing viola too, by the way. But if you choose cello, then you get one. You rent one to stay home with you, and then you rent one that stays at school. So you're not lugging it back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how did Bennett choose viola? Because I was like, why don't you just do violin to my son?
There's too many violinists who are already good. Yeah. Ellen, you and I are the ones who are like, we're so like type B, They cannot stand out. They're all by the time they take a violin. There's kids who've been playing
since.
Of
the masses. You need to, if you want to actually have a chance at
exactly,
being needed.
Exactly. And I was like, you will always have a part if you do viola.
Yeah.
Right. And then his orchestra teacher, middle school orchestra teacher, must have given them the same spiel because he wasn't. Like, it wasn't on our radar. And then he came home that day and said, I think I want to switch to viola.
Yeah, my son got influenced that exact way. Yeah. And he's like, there's less viola players. Right. So I was like, you know what, honey? That may be the smartest thing you've said.
Yeah. I know. So smart, right? And good for them. They're always going to have a part. They're always going to be needed. Yeah. And I gave them this story. Like I said, mommy's friend, she played flute and she was very good. But you know how many flutes there are in the band? The band needed an oboist. And she volunteered. I said she had a solo in every performance.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And get her own standing ovation.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I said,
maybe that's what I'll do with Sawyer. I told you that Sawyer asked for a flute for Christmas.
That is so funny. I think you did tell me that.
And now he plays the flute.
I love that. I love that for him. He's probably like one of like there's probably not many boys who
that
do
play
flute.
And then maybe I can. Somebody else surprisingly told me, yeah, and then he can switch to oboe.
Yes.
That's what somebody else
yes.
said
When you
too.
do flute, you can do oboe. And I think I did clarinet because all of my friends did flute.
Really?
And I didn't like that high pitched sound.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
And
surprised.
so I thought like the clarinet was like much like richer sounding. I didn't know it's going to be like all boys and like so that was like the annoying part is like you're in different sections. Like all my friends are over there and I'm here. And then when you do marching band, like the clarinets are all on like I think it's the right flank, but you're like on the right side, like all in a column like that. Yeah.
Now, okay, looking back at our age, do you wish that you had been allowed to do what you wanted to do instead of band?
Some.
Or
some.
You do.
I can see, but I understand like different perspectives, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So I remember, I remember doing clarinet, but then I was like, I asked my parents, like, hey, can I quit piano and get clarinet lessons instead? Because I'm not.
You asked that?
Yeah.
Okay. So is that what happened?
Because I had to like stand out in a sea of clarinets. Okay. And so that's what happened.
You went with clarinet. Wait, but so you were the one that asked your parents to do clarinet?
When I wanted to learn clarinet, like because we had an opportunity to do instrumental music in elementary school, right? Kind of like our kids now.
Yeah.
But I mean, now Bennett, they have orchestra, which we didn't have orchestra in elementary school. So when I was in elementary school, it was like just band instruments. So it was like, a trumpet, saxophone, clarinet, flute, or whatever. So I did clarinet. And so my parents were like, you did this for like a few years already, so you should just do band in middle school. But when I go to middle school, there's like more kids. And I was like, I really don't, what I learned on the clarinet was from the elementary school teacher who taught every instrument, right? So like your progress is like,
Right.
And so I was like, I think I need private lessons. So I think I remember like pitching that to my parents. Like, can I like let go of the piano and get clarinet lessons instead?
Interesting. And
so that's what happened. And I did that for a few years.
Did you not love the piano?
I didn't love it. No. But I mean, it was necessary. I mean, that's why you're able to like read music
better,
and So I think foundationally, everyone should know that, like basics.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do wish that I had gotten to explore the art part of it because I did really enjoy that for years.
Yeah.
But so when I was able to take art again in school, I was already a junior, and I remember taking that class with 7th and 8th graders.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I couldn't like go to like the more advanced classes because I had never gotten the basics.
So did that kind of just dampen your desires?
It didn't dampen it, but it just made me realize, okay, like I am starting like so late, so this is not an option for me. Whereas like I had friends who did art from earlier on and they were looking at art schools and schools to like where they could major in a visual arts field, like design or industrial design or whatnot.
If you had been allowed to, do you think your trajectory would have changed?
I don't know. That's the thing is like, it very well could have, but then I discovered other passions and other,
and you're so good, and
skills.
You were very
talents.
passionate about, being in the. You're Emmy nominated. I will always flex that for Jane. She's an Emmy nominated reporter.
Do you know that you pay to submit?
What?
Yeah.
That sounds like a scam.
Yeah. So I wasn't going to pay. And, was like, you don't realize that until you're there, right? It's like, okay, so you submit. And so there are people who can afford to submit for every category. But like my news director at the time was very strategic and was like, would tell us, Jane, I think you should submit in this category, and it was for the writing category. So she told me to like put together a reel, which that best demonstrated like my writing and all of that. And so yeah, it was just like one submission.
Wow.
And at that time, it was like $200, and I think the station was paying for it.
Did you win?
I didn't win.
Okay,
I got nominated. Yeah. So you go that day and find out who won. But then, it's all kinds of subjective, because the people who serve on those judging panels are people who've been in the industry for a long time. There's a lot of recognized names,
It really is like, privilege, right?
It is because you if you work at a station, and every TV market has stations that are ranked, right? I was working for, at the time, a number 3 station, but the news director, there was like new leadership, so they had all been hired to just kind of bring the ratings up and bring it up and invest more, into it, type of thing.
Wow.
And so maybe it was like a little bit naive and idealistic, but I was like, I definitely want to work at a station like that rather than a station that already has this prestige and, but I learned a lot over there. But I think at that point, at that time, how old was I? 26, maybe? Then I was like, oh, I see how like my career trajectory could go. And my dream at that time was to like one day make it back to my home market of LA.
Wow.
And do, be a local news anchor in LA, and then maybe one day be national or be on one of the morning shows, or, So there was a period where I was like very, very, like I had my eyes set on that.
Driven.
Mm-hmm.
So your biggest dream would have been to did you have a dream where you were uninhibited?
Uh-huh.
What would that be?
Yeah. Oh, I think it would be to like be
like Good
national,
Morning America.
Yeah.
Sort of
Good
show.
Morning America, Today Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been like the far. Wow.
Yeah.
And
I've never been like a big dreamer, right?
Yeah.
But if I felt like, this is how I've always was like so cautious to overpromise and underdeliver. So when I had been doing the news thing for a few years, that's when I thought, Jane, I think I could do this.
Nice.
If I keep going in this way.
Yeah. You saw a path.
Yeah. But really it was kind of like, okay, it's going to be incremental and like maybe I can. But I've never been like a
out
like
there,
a big
Delulu
thinker. Yeah. Where
you never allowed yourself to be fully delusional.
Yes.
You needed to see like
I'm very practical, so I always had to be like, I need to see if I can do this.
Yeah,
you
needed to see the map.
Yeah.
You're like, I need a visual.
Yeah, is it achievable? Is it attainable?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then I became a mom and everything crumbled. It didn't crumble. It didn't crumble. It just changed. It shifted.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
Wait, so what would you say your plan B is?
So, I mean, this is my reality today.
Yeah.
Is, a stay-at-home parent.
Yeah, but you gotta hype it up.
Yeah, I have to hype. So it's definitely not, it's not rich auntie. Because I
Are you sure? Jane, you
I'm a mommy,
luxury.
not a auntie, right?
Oh, right.
I mean, I do
rich
have a
mommy,
nephew,
rich
but
mommy.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a rich mommy?
Maybe at times, yeah.
I think so. I mean, I'm always looking at your perfected nails, hair in place. I've never seen you out of place. Look at Chopper. He's like,
I know.
My dog is like, yes, I agree with what she's saying. I want to go to Jane now. I think for me, I really thought the realistic plan for me was to go to college and follow the master's program into being a studio artist.
Yes, you also wanted to be an artist.
Yeah. I was wholeheartedly all about it.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to apply to NYU. I mean, even from high school, I wanted to apply to NYU, but then my parents shut that shit down. Like, you're only applying to UW, and that's it, local university.
Yeah.
And if you can't get in there, then you have no business going anywhere else.
Oh my God.
So hi, what's going on? Do you want to sit down, relax?
You must have done well in high school then.
I was not like the best student, but not the worst. I mean, I went to Newport and Bellevue, where like we had like, I don't know, 20 valedictorians.
Yeah.
And we also had every kid was like going to Ivy, league. So UW was sort of like, I mean, I think UW is a great school.
I mean, I went to a similar school.
Yeah,
too,
I would have a hard time getting into UW now. I mean, but I was a 3.8 student.
Yeah,
so
that's really good.
Okay, but I didn't have a lot of like things that made me stand out or anything, because I wasn't allowed to do a lot of extracurriculars. But but I thought, well, I think that I was a dreamer. I would dream big, and my parents would shut it down.
Yeah.
Like be realistic. So I didn't even apply. I only applied to one school. How many schools did you apply to?
Well, I mean, I applied to most of the UC because it's like one common application.
Yeah.
And then I applied to a few private schools, even though my parents had already told me, like, you're not going to a private school. It's like too much money. Yeah.
I applied only to UW. That was it. One school.
Yeah.
And then I did well at UW in the fine arts program. And I really thought I was going to go to do grad school, like, and take it to New York there.
Yeah.
And do, like, there, at the time, there were a lot of, and still now, a lot of Korean studio artists that were coming up. And they were doing installation work, and I was so moved by it. There's a beautiful Korean American artist, Teresa Lee, that, I think that's her name. It's been so long, but she was very promising, and I don't know what happened, if she committed suicide or if she had just an unfortunately young death.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, wow, like, so many people look to her as to be that person. Sorry, hold on. Come here, Chopper. What? Okay. My dog apparently.
He's like whimpering. Yeah, he's whimpering.
Okay. Oh. So would you like to be on the mic? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Go to mama.
All right. Calm down. So yeah, but during college, seeing how much of it was bullshit, I just was like, oh my God, I can't do this in grad school. Like that's like crazy. Sit.
What do you mean bullshit?
Like how art is so subjective. I literally I worked my ass off in doing studio piece.
Yeah.
And like my fingers were bleeding. I did these kimchi jars where like I was putting, it was very conceptual, and cracking these jars and gluing it back together. I poured my heart and soul into it. And then there's another girl who just did a finger painting basically. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like this is, and she was justifying that was such a grand piece, just talking out of her ass. And that infuriated me so much. I was like, is this what it's gonna be? Like, I'm gonna be surrounded by people who just bullshit, and people who praise this bullshit. Like, I couldn't. I don't know.
Right. It is like Emperor's New Clothes.
Yeah, I
type
was like,
of thing.
fuck this. So then I pivoted. I went to my plan B. I was like, I'll just make money.
Yeah.
I know that I can produce. I'll make money for me.
Yeah.
And I just went really all in that way. Opened up my own studio, and was
photography.
Yeah, photography, portrait photography. Yeah. In a way, I sold out my dream. And it got to a point where, I've told you this before, I burnt out. I don't even want to hold the camera anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's really sad. But I don't regret the path that led me here.
Yeah.
I am actually, Jane, lately, I've been really soaking in gratitude. I feel the most at 42, going to be 43 this year, the most clear-headed. I felt like for a good part of my life, I was living in a fog. I think with the family trauma that I couldn't let go, and also just like, what am I doing with my life? I gotta make money. I felt like I wasn't really in the moment. I felt like with my family trauma, I was trapped in the past. With the business, my business, I was trapped in the hustle. But now, right now, this is the most peace I've ever felt in my life. I feel people look down on being content. Like, success needs to be about like excess. Like, how much money can you have, or how much fame can you have? And I think, at least what I'm realizing, just being content with what you have, for me, as I'm experiencing it, is the greatest peace of mind. And I feel really at ease. And I never thought that that's what like success would be for me. I didn't imagine this to be success. But now I'm realizing it is.
So like your plan A was like tortured artist.
Yeah. In every form.
Tortured, starving artist.
I thought, you know what? I'll be poor. But I will make the art that speaks from my soul.
Yeah.
And that will bring me
joy.
Yeah, I never sought out. I was like, I think my parents really drilled it in me. You're going to be poor if you go the art way. I was like, okay, I will be poor.
Yeah.
I was like, I am looking at a poor life, and I'm okay with that. But the art, when I realized I wouldn't actually be, or I would be surrounded by artists that weren't speaking from their soul, it just turned me off. And I wish, but I don't think I should have kept that path. I'm actually really of the mind, what's meant to be has happened for me. And from the 8-year-old girl me, who could not visualize, I never thought about having a family. I never thought that was possible because, one, my parents would be like, no one is going to marry you. Like, you're so unworthy of, like, who would marry you? I really bought into like, oh yeah, I don't know, probably not. But I never thought, like, I didn't even think about like, am I going to be single for the rest of my life? It just didn't occur to me. Those thoughts. And so to now be a mom with 2 amazing boys, as much as I talk shit about them, they're pretty wonderful, and a partner, husband, I could not have imagined myself with a man like the one I have now. Like, so supportive of everything I do. Just believes the best parts of me. Thinks I'm like the most beautiful woman, which I'm like, you don't have good vision, so I know that's a lie. He's so far. Sometimes I'm like, I wonder if he actually knows what I look like, because his eyesight is so bad. Like, I looked at his glasses, I was like, damn.
You're so funny.
Maybe what if he just like, what are they? Beer goggles. Maybe he's beer goggles, and he thinks I'm like Lucy Liu. He did have the biggest crush on Lucy Liu at one point. So I'm like, oh my God, I think I should make sure, his vision is bad. but I'm,
as long
I'm
as he
happy.
doesn't get like LASIK or
Yeah.
vision correction.
Yeah, he doesn't qualify for LASIK.
I don't either.
Why? Why don't you qualify?
Like, your cornea has to be a certain thickness.
Yeah,
so
his is
like
too
thin.
flat.
Oh, okay. My cornea is like too thin. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, so you wear contacts every day? I had no idea.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah.
We talked about this. I was like a nerd. Like,
that's
yeah.
right. wait. I think maybe I assumed you had LASIK.
No, I did look into it a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
That
Adonis
was, like,
did
really
look into it, and
sad.
they're
Yeah.
like, you have the worst type of eye.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it. We can't do it. But yeah, I like my life.
Yeah.
I love my life.
Yeah.
And I'm finally. God, my dog is a hater. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That's my dog going, I don't know about that. Little bitch. You shih tzu. Anyways. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm content too. I think at times I think I would have been doing more. You know, and I think like the pandemic really was like not a setback, but that was like half of my 30s almost, you know.
Wow.
It's like I was 35 in 2020, and then I feel like we're fully out of it now.
Wow.
But yeah, so
but
I feel like
that's also when you blew up on TikTok.
it is, yeah. But I think I was very like going with the current because it was a time where you couldn't really plan. You couldn't really like think. Well, for me, I was like, I can't really visualize the future. And I have trouble visualizing the future as it is.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a very much like what's here and now kind of person.
What do you imagine if COVID hadn't happened? What kind of trajectory do you think you could have done?
I think at some point I would have returned to my career when and that was kind of the plan once, you know, my youngest started school and kindergarten.
That was a pivotal window of time for you.
It was. And I was not sure if I could do the stay-at-home parent thing.
But then you were forced to.
Forced to, yeah.
Wow.
And I thought I would always live near my parents. I always thought we would live like in, you know, when I would watch Korean dramas, I thought living in a hanok, like Korean traditional house, was like the best thing ever. Where just generations of the family are in that house.
Wow.
And of course that was, you know, I didn't know anything then and I wouldn't want that now.
Right.
But I thought I would be back in LA.
Yeah, it kind of aligns with that dream you had of becoming a news anchor in LA.
Like in my mind,
having parents help you.
Right. It only made sense if we were here. Like, I mean, if we were in LA. Like that dream only made sense if we had that structure and the infrastructure of help and support. But
how do you feel? Like, do you feel like does your brain take you back like that was a missed opportunity?
And sometimes I feel wistful, you know, but I am so happy with how things turned out.
Yeah.
But of course, like you know, especially when it's summertime and I'm juggling like all of these schedules and things, I'm like, it would be so nice to have some help. Like it would be so nice to just like drop them off at my parents' house and go take an afternoon. Or
that's
you know
truly
what I mean?
a gift.
Yeah. And so, but other than that, you know, I look at Plan B and life, and it's like it really took us where, you know, to your point, like where we're kind of meant to be at this time, you know, and I'm so thankful that I look at the kids and they're growing up so fast.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking they need me more now than they did when they were, you know, 2, 3, 4. And they were in daycare every day. Like, and I used to feel really guilty about that.
Right.
Because I'm like working toward my career and like they're just in daycare from like 8 in the morning till 6 at night.
And remember, Jane, I remember you wishing your parents had been around more.
Right. Yeah.
And
I am that. And so sometimes I'm like totally burnt out, feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to like all day I have to be something for somebody.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to be needed. But on the flip side, when I go to bed at night, I'm like, I feel so happy that I could do that for my kids.
And also think of the reward, like, you know, and this is not in any way shade to your mom or anything. We know that our parents were doing the best to just survive.
Yes.
But like your kids, will look back on that time and say, man, mom was like there for everything. And that is absolutely priceless.
Yeah, I hope so. I
Yeah.
hope so. Like Bennett wanted to go play with his friend the other day, and I remember whenever I wanted to do that, I had to always bother my mom at work and call her, like, "Is it okay if it,
Yeah.
And if she didn't know enough details or whatever, it was just like, no, I don't
It's
think
not
you
worth
can
it.
do that.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, go ahead, go
Right.
walk, and come back in an hour, and I'll be here, type of thing. So I'm thankful I could give them that life.
That's such a beautiful thing that we take for granted.
Yeah.
No, I mean like because we didn't grow up with that.
Right.
We know how precious that is.
Yes. And
that freedom as a kid.
Yeah. I'm thankful that I don't have like that, 9 to 5 work.
Yeah.
Stress, or like that division of my mind mentally too, And
I mean, I do the most random shit, and I sometimes tell myself I am the hardest working person that doesn't make money.
I know, right? I know.
No day is ever the same.
Yeah, no day is the same.
Yeah,
like
we are always on our toes.
Yeah,
we're always, and
your day is like divided into like so many things,
and we're always like pivoting, and redirecting, and we have an extreme set of skills, Jane.
So the other day I went to the school because there was a first grade play, and the teacher putting it on was Ruby's teacher last year.
Okay.
She remembered that I recorded the entire play last year and like edited it, and I gave it to the teacher.
You're that parent?
I became that parent somehow.
Amazing.
Like you go down I was like, I'm just going to record this for me to have, right? But then I was like, hold on.
Wow.
I have prime seat. I might as well just record the whole thing.
Oh, because you have that background too.
Give it to the class.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. She remembered I did that last year and said,
like,
Jane, do you think you could come in and record our play this year again? And I said, let me check my calendar.
You are so I was available. Nice. Your kid's not even in the play.
No, they weren't even in the play.
I'd be like, fuck that shit.
Yeah. No, but I was like, this year is so much better than last year. I think it's because they had that practice. Like last year was the first year since COVID that she started doing this again.
Wow.
And so it was a little bit rough around the edges. And this year, they changed things up, and like the props were a little bit better. They had like a little bit more time to prepare.
Funny. I can't believe you said yes to this. I would have said
I did say yes to this, yeah. But I like doing that stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was putting like the closed captioning on and the credits at the end.
Wow.
But that's my plan B, is I'm that parent. But I don't want to be helicopter.
No,
don't want to be that.
You're
but
not.
just like,
nobody thinks that. You're that helpful parent that is involved, and you're.
And when I was a kid, I benefited from so many parents and just volunteers who were always there, right? And I was like that kid where my parents couldn't do that, and so I feel like now I'm that parent that can do that for. Other parents
You're giving back.
Are working. And I
That's
definitely feel
beautiful.
that. I'm so thankful that the kids are in school fully, because pandemic was rough. I'm just thankful that they have a place to go every day. And, I'm soaking up those every day until summer break, because summer will be crazy. But when the kids are home with us.
Don't get ahead of yourself, Jane.
That's the only time when I'm like, I wish I had a 9 to 5. Just sign them up for camp after camp after camp. Yeah.
God, those camps are so expensive.
They're so expensive.
My God. But,
And that's the guilt, because I'm like, if I had a 9 to 5, I wouldn't even bat an eye. But I'm like, oh, Jane, you're home. And you're going to pay to send them away when you're home.
You're the coordinator.
Yeah, but,
Let's hang on to our spring for now.
Yes.